Hey, y'all. Let's talk about white tea propaganda for a minute. There's a lot of people out there saying that white tea has no caffeine or the lowest caffeine. I've also seen people claiming that white tea has categorically the highest amount of caffeine of all tea types. None of that is true, but also most of that is true. By which I mean, caffeine content in tea has more to do with what part of the plant the leaf has been plucked from, what specific cultivar and breeding style the plant is, what altitude it was grown at, and the way that it was processed. Also, the way that you brew it. So, there's a ton of factors that go into caffeine content with tea. Like some of that has to do with oxidation level in the leaf, but not even most of it. White tea does typically contain a very high level of caffeine because white tea has such a delicate floral complex flavor profile. That's what's prized in a white tea style. So the part of the plant that is typically being picked for a white tea is the youngest part of the plant. Caffeine is a plant's natural insecticide. It's a defense mechanism. It's poison. And so the plant will pipe caffeine to the part that is the most vulnerable to insects, like, the bud, the brand new baby little bud that hasn't even quite leafed out yet. So the older the leaf, the less caffeine it contains. The more armored the part of the plant, the less caffeine it contains. Our white teas are mostly picked from the bud and the first two leaves of the plant, and then very, very minimally handled and processed. So it's just the pure, untouched amount of caffeine that's inherently present in the leaf at the time of picking. It just kind of hangs out there. Now, we do see caffeine shift a bit with oxidation level, and typically you'll see white tea start out pretty high, and then as the leaf is bruised and oxygen starts futzing with the chemicals inside of the leaf, we'll see the caffeine content dip down a little bit as we pass through yellow and green tea styles, and then start to increase again as the molecules kind of rearrange themselves back up through oolongs and into black teas. Also, you'll often see that a lot of long styles, or even as dark as black tea styles, will use lower cut leaf because the high oxidation level lends itself more to more tannic styles of tea. So you'll start to get more tannic release there. And for that, you might as well be using the lower leaves because you're not aiming for that super delicate floral style anymore. Our exceptions, of course, come in when we have the very floral styles of darker teas, like Darjeeling is a great example. Darjeeling tea has bonkers caffeine. It's a very high altitude, which contributes to higher caffeine levels. It's a super small leaf type cultivar, which contributes to high caffeine levels. And it is known for the delicate floral notes that are, popular in the region, which comes from picking the very, very youngest leaf at a certain time of season when it's at its most complex, most vulnerable. Tons of caffeine in Darjeeling black tea. Silver needle white tea, just the baby, young, delicate, tender bud of the plant. That's it. Not even the first two leaves, just the bud. Do you know what's in that bud? 99% of the caffeine in the whole plant. A silver needle white tea will make you see through space in time. However, like a classic Baimudan white peony white tea is made with a little bit lower down on the branch. Typically, like you might see some bud in there, but you're going to get a little bit of the larger leaf types in there. So you're already seeing a drop in caffeine level with your Baimudan when compared to your silver needle. You'll also see a drop in caffeine amongst your black teas. If you look at that Darjeeling we were just talking about and compare it with two like popular styles in the Assam region, which is lower land, so lower caffeine inherently. They favor a bolder, maltier cup, so they like the older leaf, larger leaf styles. All of that is lends itself to lower caffeine levels. So you'll find that like a silver needle white tea is higher in caffeine than most Assam black teas. However, your Darjeeling black tea ends up being higher in caffeine than like your Baimudan white tea. So there are a ton of factors involved. It's not as simple as white tea has the lowest amount of caffeine of all tea types or white tea has the highest amount of caffeine of all tea types. It's never that simple. There's just too many factors at play here. But typically, yeah, your white tea and your black tea are going to float right around the same range caffeine wise. It's just that one is smoother than the other. And also the caffeine is, responds differently to different bodies and different types of tea. There's a lot of other chemicals going on there as well. So your body might respond one way to white tea caffeine that is, not in the presence of so much like tannic pull, etc. Whereas in a black tea, your caffeine is there with a higher tannin content, and your body might take that combination of chemicals and say, this one hits hard, this one's pretty soft. It could be the same amount of caffeine and it might hit different depending on whether it's a white tea or a black tea. Just like, tea caffeine and coffee caffeine are different and how they interact with your body despite being technically the same chemical. Yeah, so it's not that simple. It's way more complicated than that. But if somebody does tell you that white tea is naturally decaffeinated, which I have heard in my career, that's not true. That I can say definitively. The rest is all, it depends, but that I can say definitively. So white tea propaganda. Don't believe the caffeine hype necessarily. There's way more going on than just white tea versus black tea.